this. Watch this.
You are
There's a little bit of a delay. See, it's not live yet. You're live now. You see where your people are? See the little eyeball there?
Hi, folks.
Okay, so let's give a check. Are we live, guys? Give us a thumbs up if you can hear us. So you wait for a little.
Oh,
There we go. Now we're live. Okay. You're good. We're good to go.
Hi, folks. Larry Rolla here on his first live show. This will probably be an abortion, but we're going to give it the best shot. First, I got to thank two people. Last week, I called Tommy Stigs. He has his own podcast. In fact, you should, when you get up in the morning, you should go to his YouTube. It's coffee in the morning. It's about 7:00, and he has a podcast throughout the day. He's really good. And he's the guy that got me into this thing. He set everything up for me, and just a real good guy. And I'll talk more about him some other time. And I also want to thank. There's a girl out there, Holly. When Tommy was setting this up for me last week, he put it on live, and Holly donated some money, and I just have to thank her. I thank you, Holly. So this will be the first live. I'm sure I'm going to screw up. I have a friend of mine sitting next to me because there's questions that come in. I'm not going to be able to read them as fast as they come. But I want you to, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, maybe 2 or 3 times a week, I'm going to come on live. Because I told my story through the 40-something podcasts that I put out there, and it was like an outline, and none of the specifics are in any of my podcasts, and I'm hoping that questions come in for particulars, and that's what I want. I'm better at answering questions than I am trying to just tell a story. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'll be looking at your questions, and if I miss one or miss a couple, I don't know what the routine is, but just send them back, and I'll try to answer any questions about anything, about my life, about my fixing races, how, where, when, why, who. About the mob people I was involved with, from New Jersey to New York, about training horses, the treatment of horses, racing horses, any question you want at all. So that's it. So I want to say a couple of things, being this will be the first live I'm doing. I want to say, this weekend, I went to a friend of mine put together the first Italian pop culture convention. It was at the Hilton Hotel in Fairlawn. It was 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, and it was an unbelievable event. Everybody was there, and I spoke with a few people. One of the people I spoke with was an ex-fighter called Bobby Ches, and he's a Jersey guy, and I'm sure most of you out there know about him. And he has an unbelievable story. Here's a guy that was a 3-time world champion. He talked about his father's suicide. He talked about his fights. He told me many interesting stories. He's a member of Mensa, and I think you have to have an IQ of over 130, and I think 2% of the people in the world have that. And he went from that to shopping, to bagging. ShopRite. It's a sad story, and it's a story that should be told. And I'm going to see if I can't help him along the way. And one of the people that I spoke to, at another person I spoke to down there was Lorraine Bracco from Sopranos and many other movies. And I told her about the time I helped James Gandolfini and helped out his father, and we took pictures. And I don't think I should get into it'll be too long, but there's a big picture that I took of a horse that his father helped me train, and it was a maiden. A horse never won a race before, and that week he was entered to race and he win. And I took the winner's circle picture and I sent it up to. I had it enlarged and I sent it up to Jimmy, and he sent it to his father. I think I went to Florida, California. And by the time I come back, his father had died. But Jimmy sent for me and said that was that extended his life, because he refused to talk, he refused to eat until he came to the track. So if you have any questions about that, I'll answer them. But I don't want to just keep going on and on. I have some notes that I wrote in the event that nobody came on. I have no idea what to expect from this, but I'm sure I'll catch on in another week or so. Also, I want to mention that this weekend, it's on the on the 28th, a Sunday, at Annabella's on 900 Patterson Plank Road in East Rutherford. A friend of mine put together a band, and they're going to do a show, a Sunday brunch, starting at 2:00 until 4. And it's going to be a great night. I'm going to be there with a bunch of friends. There'll be everybody will be there. So I suggest you make reservations. Just look up Annabella's. The phone number is 201-804-0303, and just make reservations. Now, if a lot of people are asking me what's happening with my movie, and I'll get into more specifics later on. I could just tell you this whole thing started in 2019 with Sony Pictures and Village Roadshow and Nicholas Pileggi, and COVID held it up, and then other complications, and then the writer's strike, and then the actor's strike, and now there's a union strike. But if you want to know more about it, just call in. I was told by Tommy Stigs, my pal who helped me set this thing up, he says, keep everything short. And I think he's going to set up some kind of hammer that's going to come on my head if I talk longer than 30 seconds about any subject. So I have to keep looking at my stopwatch that I had from the trot days. And that's it. I guess I'm going to start answering these questions, because I can't believe it. I think this number up here means 34 people are watching, and I should start answering these questions.
It was a good question.
Go ahead, say it. Just talk.
What's the question?
So
I got my friend here, because I can't read and
okay.
talk at the same time. Only Spriggs can do
You can't
that.
scroll.
Someone asked if you knew Johnny Campo. He was a trainer, I
Don't
believe,
touch his
of
mouth.
Pleasant Colony, who I believe won the.
I knew Johnny Campo. Johnny Campo. I knew Johnny Campo, and I also, after he passed, I was at a couple of racetracks with his son.
Yes.
So yes, I knew Johnny Campo. I also knew his son, who trained thoroughbreds.
Yeah, it's all right. They can't scroll.
Go ahead. Next question.
Someone wants to know if you ever made enough money in 1 week to pay off Cabert, if that were possible.
No, there was 1 or 2 weeks during them 4 or 5 years that I did make enough. But at the same time, and I don't talk about this too much, I helped a friend of mine. I can't get into this neither, because it'll go on for hours. and that hammer's going to come down. But I was helping a friend of mine had a cure for cancer, and I was helping a lot of people, hundreds of people, go to him and picking up the tab for the ones that couldn't afford it because insurance didn't cover it because it was an alternative treatment. It was basically building up your immune system. So did I make enough money to pay off the? Now, don't forget, I lost close to 800,000, but it was the two different guys. Bert only was a little less than I think 380,000, something like that. And I did make that much in 1 week, but I had to make decisions. Do I help these cancer kids or
No.
so? All right.
JW, that's a great question right there. Read that one.
When you were fixing races in New York with Angel Cordero and other jockeys, what was the biggest one-day score you made?
Well, that probably maybe 80, 90,000. But you have to remember that I had fat Tony Shula. We were both betting. He was betting at the track 1 week, and I'd bet at OTB, and 1 week he'd bet at OTB. So, whatever we did.
That's a good day's work.
What's the biggest? This basically.
Probably 50, 60, 70, 80,000, something like that.
Next one.
Do you remember a trainer named Tom Fiore? I believe he was also banned and later became a casino host in Atlantic City.
I think I know the name. I just don't remember.
Yeah.
Next question.
What jockeys fixed races in New York? If you care to disclose that.
That's where it gets a little.
I mentioned that because it was in all the newspapers, it from Cordero to Baeza to all the top jockeys in New York. That's where we started off at, and that whole story is in my book. I never mentioned the names on, but I could because it was in the newspapers. But it's all in the book. I'd have to open up the book, open up the page, and read them all. But it was all the top jockeys in the early 70s.
Okay, I have a good question I want to read off. Okay. J.L. Halls. Hi, Larry. Were you ever at Maidwood Training Track in the early 70s? I was a groom there. Was my first job out of high school.
No, never
know this
Maidwood.
one.
No.
Okay. Okay, JL, we read it off. He did not know that. All right.
What was the first car you ever had?
First car I ever had. The first car I ever had, I turned into a stock car. And I think I was 14 years old. And I turned it into a stock car, ripped the fenders off, built roll bars and everything, and start racing stock cars at 14. I used my friend Albert Algimento's driver's license. So they would pass me, but I was 14. I was racing stock cars at Freeport. I forgot what kind of car it was.
Okay. Okay. You want to read the JW one? 51 people. Beautiful. Thank you for coming in.
Larry, from JW, how much money did you make for Tony and the Winter Hill gang over the years? Was it millions?
Oh, it was millions. Well, the Winter Hill gang, I really wasn't involved with them. Fat Tony Shula worked for them, and when I arrived at Lincoln Downs, he approached me, and that meet only lasted about 3 months. And but then Tony followed me to Freehold and Monticello, and he's the guy. He was my guy that I sent to Aqueduct and Belmont and Saratoga, and a couple of other tracks in New Jersey.
Okay, we got an off topic. We have a Larry. What's the best entree at Rigoletto?
Best entree at
It's a
Rigoletto.
restaurant, Rigoletto.
I don't think I was ever
Never
there.
there. Never there. Okay.
There's a Pasquale's Rigoletto on Arthur Avenue in
yes.
the Bronx.
Right.
I had to be there, but I don't remember. I mean, I'm 84, and the rest, we're talking about the 50s, 50 years ago, 60 years ago.
Bob asked the question, or states, you fixed races in the 70s and you never heard of Eric Batia. He was found dead.
Found dead.
I never heard of him.
I never heard of
Okay.
him. I never heard it. And you got to remember, but my circle was small.
Yeah. You don't know
It
where
was,
he
it
works.
was a small circle. I have no idea where he was, but I operated from my home base was Monticello, and I sent my people, my runners, and including Shula and Con Erico, to all the thoroughbred racetracks.
Were you born on Long Island?
I was born in New York City. Moved to Queens, New York when I was about 5.
Okay, check out Mike Sergio's. Read that one off.
Did Frankie Loke own a farm in Monticello?
It wasn't it was just before Monticello. Yeah, he had a farm up there and he raised his own horses. And kid that used to work for me was training horses for him. And also another good friend of mine was training horses for him right up until the time he went to jail.
So he didn't. Okay. James Grimaldi's question right there on the bottom.
Larry, what was the biggest bet you ever made?
Well, it was never really a big bet. The biggest single bet I ever made was 10,000. I used to bet 5,000 a position with Nicky Barnes in the middle 70s. But we would bet it with Fat Tony from the Genovese crew.
Okay, so that's that one. And Pal.
What was your biggest money made on a fixed race?
Well, it was different. Probably what I try to do is every fixed race that we fixed, you try to make just double your money. It cost me probably between $20,000 and $30,000 to fix a thoroughbred race, meaning the first and second choice get $5,000 to be out of it. Then the third and fourth choice get $2,500. And then I gave Con Erico $1,000 for every guy he got out. So it probably cost me $20,000, $25,000 to fix one thoroughbred race. And then I would probably bet another $20,000 into the race. And so I probably had maybe $40,000 invested. If I got $80,000 back, I was happy. But many times it was close to $100,000.
Perfect. JW.
Larry, how much jockey and trainer cheating do you think happens today on horse racing?
Well, I've been out of it a long time. I don't believe much of that goes on at the major tracks, but a lot of it, I believe, still goes on at the smaller tracks.
Here's a good one. James Grimaldi saying, I didn't know Bonds took bets. That's a cool story. So you could answer that part of his question.
I'll answer it as quick as I could. I got a 30-second limit before the hammer comes.
There's a little more to that question.
I know, but because Bonds didn't take it. Larry will answer it.
Yeah.
Nicky Barnes, I did him a favor, and he told me that he came up to Monticello. He told me that he can get down 5,000 a position on any race, and I told him it was impossible. But he said he bet over he bet over $1 million a week on sporting events, and that Fat Tony would give him a courtesy bet of 5,000 a position, even on the trotters. And that's how that whole relationship started. And that went on for about 3 or 4 months until the whole Harlem crew, his whole, they got pinched, and that was the end of that.
Next part.
The same fellow also wants to know if you had ever been to Fat Tony's horse farm in Rhinebeck. No. And did you ever have any contact with Joey Molino or his father, Chucky?
No.
None at all.
No, I stayed where I had to stay. They were in Philadelphia. I stayed where I had to stay.
Here's a good one, because this one hurts. It's from It's All Good. Larry, did you ever fix a race and it didn't work out the way you planned?
It happened a lot. And that's the problem I had with Fat Tony Shula, because when it happened at Lincoln Downs, he waited for the driver who took money to be worse than third, and the guy couldn't help it. And he run over the money, and Tony waited for him. I didn't know this until after the fact, and he crippled him pretty good. And there was a situation with one of the jockeys in Aqueduct, and that was found dead off the Bell Parkway. That was a
That's crazy.
situation there.
Things
So
that happen.
yeah, but what normally when it happens, and it happens sometimes, you
Great
chalk it up,
questions.
you make it up the next race.
Great questions, guys. Great
Yeah.
questions. Now, I just want to add something here while I can. If you ever feel, Larry, that the questions are coming a little slow, and there's something that you want to put out there, that's something that you would like to talk about, you can always do that. You have to feel the chat, and then if you ever feel like, let me add this in, guys, this might be of interest to you. If you feel the chat is not, you know what I mean?
That's Tommy talking to
Yeah.
me.
I'm
Tommy
back here
thinks I'm
helping him
like Tommy thinks I'm like him. He's what he does. 1 in a million can do. He reads all these questions and he talks at the same time. Says hello to people and everything else. I never did nothing like this in my life. The most I ever did was give me 2,000 to win on a 5-horse. That's as fast as I ever talked in my
Oh
life.
my God, that's great. That's great.
Great question from Nowhere Man. What training job are you most proud of?
There were a couple, and I mentioned them in the book, and I mentioned them before, but I can't go into detail because of the hammer. One was Wildwood Jeb. That when I got him, he couldn't walk from barn to barn without bleeding, and I wound up winning the $1 million cane pace with him a few years later,
Nice.
and winning a
That's a
lot
good
of
one,
money.
yeah.
And the other one was a horse that Mike Gagliotti sold me called Theodore Diamond. That when I went to Mike was a good friend, but he was treacherous sometimes, and treacherous. And when I went to go, I'd give him he wanted 10,000. I give him the 10,000. And when I went to go pick up the horse, he was laying in the stall in shock. And it took 3 days to bring him back to life. And I had to nerve him high because he had a cracked sesamoid bone. That was another story. But them two horses, probably them two horses were like miracle cures. And then the one Stanley Dancer gave me, the one that Neville Leader. I mean, Stanley had him. He bowed 2 tendons. He couldn't get him to the races, and he gave him to me. Him and Charles Slutsky gave me that horse, and I got him back to the races. I asked Stanley to qualify him and drive him for me. And he won 4 or 5 in a row. And then they gave me the horse as a gift, plus all the purse money that he won. And I sold him a week or 2 later for $100,000. So that was a couple of $100,000 score. So that's probably Neville Leader, Wildwood Jeb, and Theodore Diamond.
We had a good question. It's off the screen now, so I don't know who submitted it. But the person asked if you usually were only able to do 1 race a day. Knowing it is quite a big job to get one done, so more than one.
The races I had to fix. The only way you can make money is through trifecta races. Well, even though when I bet with Nicky Bonds, it was just an individual bet. That's a whole other story. But when we were fixing all these races at Belmont and Aqueduct, Saratoga, it was all trifecta races. So if they were 3, 4 trifectas, we tried to fix them all. But sometimes you couldn't. Sometimes the jockey come over to you and say, look, not this week. I can't do with this horse or whatever. But they were days when we were able to get 3 races on one card in one day.
That's a good day's take.
Yeah.
Zeppyish asks, God, I just lost it.
Which is easier to fix, harness or thoroughbreds? That one?
Yes.
Okay.
They're the easy races to fix are the ones that are out of town because everybody's starving to death. All the smaller tracks. That's an automatic. I mean, if they could, they would send limousines for me. But the ones that the tough ones are the ones that involve all the top jockeys. Because these guys are making hundreds of thousands a year. But, when you offer them $5,000 to finish worse than third with a horse, it's easy for them to do it. It's $5,000 cash. They do it 2 times a day. That's $10,000. They do it 3, 4 times a week. They got an extra $20,000, $30,000 in cash. And they can go right back after the race. They just tell the trainer, geez, he just wasn't good today. Bullshit. And,
so which one is it? It's the thoroughbreds or what was the question there?
What was easier to fix?
So which ones are easier to fix?
They were both the
harness
same.
or okay.
Yeah,
that was the
either
question.
one. They
I
were
got
both.
you.
They were
Okay.
both the same. It's just a question of money. You had to come up with a lot more money for the thoroughbred guys.
Gas back then was how much?
55 cents and
Different,
76.
yeah. Mike Sergio,
Yeah,
he
that's
must be an old-time Yonkers goer because he remembers seeing Lou Pinella and Mickey Rivers at the track. Mickey was a regular there in the late 70s to the early 80s. They're asking if you ever met either of them.
No,
No. All right.
I was always ducking and weaving and wheeling and dealing. I had no time to.
J.W. Larry. How did you carry 50,000 to 100,000 cash around? Brown bag?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
Brown bag.
Well, first of all, I had runners. I had runners, and the only time I had to come up with that much money was when I collected, and that, and most of the, and many times at OTB they give you a check, which I told my runners to take the check.
No, we don't want no checks.
No, I took
So
no checks.
yeah, J.W. Larry. Look, yeah, J.W. It looks like Larry carried it in a bag. So,
No, 20,000 is
20,000, right.
it's less than an inch thick. You put
yeah.
you put 10 in each pocket,
Yeah,
and
you
nobody
do.
even know you got it.
Oh wow.
You could get 50 grand in the 2 inside pockets of a
Yeah.
suit jacket.
That's
This is
not
a
a
great
problem.
question right here. Check that one. It's all good. It's all
Oh,
good.
it's all good. And another good question.
Yeah.
Larry, knowing what you know, would you bet on the horses now?
I ain't been to a racetrack in 20 years. No, the answer is no. I don't watch sporting events from 1971, and I don't bet on horses.
There we go.
And M. Powell, your question was just kind of answered there. Do you still go to any tracks at all? And Larry
No, the
stated
last
that
time
he
I-
does not.
Last time I went to a track was when the drivers, it was unbelievable too, because they invited me to a reunion of all the drivers at Roosevelt about 5, 7, 8 years ago. In fact, all the pictures are in my book that I took with all them drivers. That was the only time I've been to the track. I don't go.
John Ramsey must have some experience in business because he states in the horse business, never take a check. It will bounce.
No, the checks I took, look, if you win 30, 40,000 at OTB, and they say the manager, the tellers say, "Oh, I got to call my manager." He calls the manager, and the manager says, "Look, we don't have that much cash here, or we can't give it to you. We can give you a check." I told my runners to take the check. The check is good. It's an OTB check. It's a state check. It's good. But along with that, they start asking questions. So you have to make sure that your runners, if the manager of OTB says, how'd you bet this number? How'd you get this? How'd you win this money? You got to say, it's none of your fucking business. I've been losing for 20 years. I finally hit a number, and you want to investigate me? Go fuck yourself and walk out. Take the check.
Bird
Yeah,
asks,
I love it.
did you use performance enhancing drugs on
no.
any of your horses?
No, never. I didn't have to. I didn't have to. The races, my thing was not to win. My thing was to lose. And
I know that.
so
That's a very good
when
question.
people ask me, how could you be in a business so long and not win that many races? My answer is I won the races I had to win, and I lost the races I had to lose.
Carmen Saccone asks about Mike Foley. And I know you kind of started with him, and I know him since the
Mike
70s.
Mike Foley, when I was racing my stock cars, I got a job in a gas station, working nights, and a horse van pulled in, and I think it was 1958. And he asked for a bucket of water. I gave him a bucket of water. We start talking. I said, I race cars. He says he races horses. He invited me out to the farm, and that was the beginning of an experience that I loved. I loved it. I love horse racing. I love racing cars, but I like I always said, you can't fall in love with a bumper or a fender, but you can fall in love with a horse. Plus, you race for purse money, because I had a room full of trophies racing stock cars and dragsters. But
Tom Lusty asks, how did you keep the IRS off your back? You dealt in a lot of cash, so that helped.
Yeah, there was a guy, I can't think of his name, up in Monticello. Everybody, oh geez, I almost had his name. Everybody went to him from the 60s, 70s, and even today, I think he's still alive. And everybody in the whole track, except for John Gilmore, used him, and everybody made $5,000 a year and paid taxes on $5,000 a year. So everything I did, I mean, I was betting 20, 30,000 a race, and but that was all cash. Nobody knew that. So the only time I paid legitimate taxes was from 78 to 84, when that was the only time.
Is it true that if a horse has the champion genes, that will give the horse a big advantage in a race?
No.
Emmanuel Spataro asks.
No. The fastest, easiest way I could tell you that is that every year, the well-bred horses go for the most money, and never make it. Most of them never even make the races. So no, and we tried everything, measuring their heart, their lungs, and everything before the sales. Nothing works, and you can get a full brother to a world champion. Like a good example would be Lucien Fontaine with Poco Moonshine, a world champion. Poco Moonshine had a full brother that couldn't beat $2,000 claimers. So what Lucien did was he claimed him out of a race and retired him. So nobody knew, because he wanted to put Poco Moonshine to stud. So
Larry, here's a great question, and this is like this kind of think about 3 a.m. Okay, can you talk about the stress you were experiencing when you were losing big betting sports?
Well, it's it was tough. It was something that you had to do. Like I explained once in one of the podcasts, when I blew a couple of $1 million, and when I took the shot at Cabert and Bonnie, I lost close to $800,000, and I was seriously thinking there were three choices: kill myself, run away, or go back. And I went back, and what keeps you going is you know that you're going to die if you don't make the payment, especially with the people I was involved with. The only thing I had was I had an avenue to make that kind of money. I was involved in a sport where I didn't want to do it. I had to do it, and I did it. But it was tough, but it's almost a 22 hour a day job, just doing everything I had to do. And you don't have time for it. You just know that that's what you have to do. Because if you sit down and think about it.
Mike Sergio, another good question.
Mike Sergio has a great question again. How did you kick the gambling habit? You sound like a program guy. Did you go to GA?
No, I went to see Robert Bisaccia, Cabert, the guy that I owed the money to, and he made it very, very clear that if I don't pay, I'd be dead. So that cured me. That was the last bet I ever made on a sporting event, and it was the last time I ever watched a sporting event.
So Cabert has a better batting average than GA.
Cabert's batting average was 1,000% in everything that he did.
Wow. Here's another question, Sheldon Glass, that you're not going to answer, but I'll ask. What driver helped you fix races at Monticello?
There were 7 or 8.
Okay.
So they'll be unnamed.
Mike F. You mentioned
Here, Larry, any videos of you driving? Robert Pakulski asks.
Yeah, in fact, I try to get all my videos when I first started out at Roosevelt. But when Roosevelt Raceway was sold, there's one fella who I met who bought many of the races, the films of the races. But aside from that, I have right now on YouTube, there's 3 races of me. I think it's on YouTube. Yeah, there's 3 races of me at Freehold, I think. No, at the Meadowlands. There's a couple of races on YouTube at the Meadowlands. One with Search Mission. I was 75 years old, I think, at the time, and I raced 2 horses that I had stalled in a hypoxic stall that I built, and both of them win. And I think them 2 races are on YouTube.
Here's a good one, because this is when it was when the fans start booing and the judges call you in. Did you ever stiff a 1-9 shot?
It wasn't 1-9. It was 1-5 that I had the rail with. I got away 7th.
Wow.
And that was at Monticello.
That's great.
What do you think about legalized sports betting nowadays? That's from Tom Kopp asking.
It's you just can't win. So whether it's legalized or not legalized, you just can't win. I just feel sorry that have that addiction. And let me tell you something. There's addictions and there's addiction, and gambling addiction is it's not a substance addiction. It's a mental addiction. And it's different. And 99 9/10 of the people that go for treatment and with a gambling addiction, they relapse. And more suicides are from gamblers than drug addicts or alcoholics or any of the other addictions.
I know of a few bookies who started going to GA meetings so that they could get new customers, knowing that they were going to relapse.
That's crazy.
Well,
That's a bottom feeder, really. But sure.
What can I say? There's guys that rob 80-year-old ladies' pocketbooks that are in a wheelchair. What are you gonna do?
You think you could get in a bike and jog now? Vic Meisch asks.
Yeah, probably. I had both my knees redone, and I'm a little stiff getting up. But if you put me in one, I'd be all right. I did it for 60 years, 65 years. It's like riding a bike,
JW asks a question. This is tough to get done, but they want to know if you ever fixed like a graded stake race. When they were racing for much money, it's tough to get.
There was one at Saratoga once that Tony's we bet on it and we win. But them kind of races, if you go up to a guy that has a maybe 5-6 to 1 shot that really has no chance, and you offer him 5,000, and but it only happened once. You kind of leave them races alone.
This Robert Pokulski again asks, I'm not sure what he means. What about the Ledfords and the use of EPO in harness horses?
Well, they were the first ones, I think, that got caught using that kind of stuff. And he got barred. He got thrown out of New York, New Jersey. And it's a terrible drug, especially if you don't know how to use it. Everybody was using it in the 80s, but they had the big stables were using it, but they had veterinarians monitoring their blood every week. Because if you don't, you just keep hitting them with that epigen, their blood turns to syrup and they die. It's you got to know what you're doing, and that's why a lot of horses that you don't even hear about or know about died. That's a tough game.
Mike F says you got 65 listeners. Larry, great job. Here's a good question from Vic Meisch. It's a little close for me. Larry, did you know Dave Dunkley and his brother's problems with the bookies?
Dave Dunkley was a great guy, a really good guy who died much too young. He was one of the guys, I think there was one year where 5 harness drivers got killed. It's a tough game. Someday if I ever learn how to put pictures on this stuff, I'll put down some of the accidents. If you go on YouTube, just punch in harness racing accidents. Terrible. I mean, Houghton went down, the horse behind him hit him in the head, died instantly, and 4 or 5 other guys the same year. It's tough. I broke just about every bone on my body at one time, and it's just a tough game. It's tough. It's dangerous. You got to be fearless, and that's why I give a lot of credit to these guys like Catello Manzi, John Campbell. My locker was right next to his. He come in with these steel braces on his knees, needed help getting into the bike, and just unbelievable. The top guys, anybody, that you got to be brave. You got to have a lot of guts. Going into that first turn, sitting 2 feet off the ground with a horse's ass right in your face, a wheel 2 feet from you on each side, and 8 or 9 horses going into the first turn, fractions of an inch apart, going 35, 40 miles an hour. It's tough.
Do you remember my friend, S. Nance asked? The friend's name, Lenny D'Amelio, driver trainer.
Yeah.
He used to deliver envelopes, mostly at Roosevelt.
Yeah, I know.
I know. How many starts did you have at Vernon Downs?
Never.
What did you think of the shoot?
Never raced at Vernon.
Did you know Ron Fegan in Toronto passed away?
No.
That's a good one there. Bob's question.
If Angel Cadero would listen to this show, what do you think he would say? Asked by Bob.
Well, it was all depends who he was sitting with. I don't know what he would say. I mean, he was lucky enough where they had that big trial. He was found innocent along with the rest of them. But I could tell you, I know what I did, and I know who I did it with, and that's that. So if he was sitting with Baeza, he would probably say we got lucky. If he was sitting with one of his trainers, he would say that wasn't me.
Mike Sergio wants to know if you were there that night. They had the riot at Yonkers.
Yeah, I was there.
Did you cause it?
I think I was there. They had 2 or 3 riots.
He has to be a little more specific. We caused a couple of them.
Yeah,
So.
there were a few riots. I don't know which ones he's talking about, but I was there for one of them, and I think I caused one of them.
Ed DeLauro says hello. You lived with him.
No, he lived with me.
He lived with you. Yeah,
He's a big time trainer now. A thoroughbred trainer. He went from harness horses to training thoroughbreds, and I believe he has a maiden thoroughbred that win close to $300,000 in purse money. He's still a maiden, New York State bred, I think. All right, listen, this is the first time I'm doing this. I really appreciate it. 71 people. I really appreciate you all coming on. I'm going to get better at this. This is like rapid fire tonight. I'll get better at this. I'm going to ask Tommy to make the hammer that he has over my head go for a little bit longer so I could talk more about the questions, because Tommy says just wrap it. I'm going to try to take a little bit more time answering. This is the first live that I'm doing, and I thank you all for watching, and we're going to do this again. I think you'll be notified. I think Tommy has it set up where you'll be notified when the next live is. Every Tuesday I have my regular one at 2:00, but I'm going to try to do this live as much as possible, because there's a million questions that you could ask me that I'm dying to answer to fill in the gaps for the podcast.
So we're going to set the thumbnail after we close this one out, guys. So look for Larry's thumbnail out there in YouTube world. Okay, you good, Larry? You want to end it now? Or I'll show you how to do it.
Larry, good job tonight.
Good job, Larry. Thank you all for coming in.
They're telling me I did a good job.
Great. Wonderful.
Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you.
All right, so hit end stream and hit it again, end stream. Now wait until